Okay, so the time is 6 p.m. on April 7th, 2021, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Safety Commission to order. And I would also just like to announce that in the absence of Chair Marklin, I will be chairing this meeting tonight. So in the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order 9-29-20, members of the Safety Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in the council chambers. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, eComment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to eComment at www.chulavistaca.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-407-3508 and engineering staff will assist you. So before we move on to roll call, I would like to move into the Pledge of Allegiance. So commissioners, if you would join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, if the secretary would please call roll.
Commissioner Cervantes, Commissioner Cervantes,
Present.
Commissioner Fowler,
Present.
Commissioner Francisco,
Present.
Commissioner Heidinger is absent. Commissioner Munoz is absent. Commissioner Orso Delgado
Present.
and Chair Marroquin is absent.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to the public comments section of our agenda. The public comments is the section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board or the commission on items that are not listed on the agenda. So I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure that new comments appear. And staff, thank you. Okay, so the commenting period for public comments is now closed. And Florence, if you could confirm, I do not believe we received any public comments, correct?
That's correct. No e-comments or emails.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. The first item is item 5.1, and this is the resolution of the Safety Commission of the City of Chula Vista recommending that the Chula Vista City Council establish time-limited parking along the west side of Frontage Road West and the south side of Anita Street, and that Schedule 6 of the Register of Schedules be amended accordingly. So does staff have a presentation for this item?
Yes, I have a brief presentation. I will bring it up right now. So as mentioned, this is specific to Anita Street and Frontage Road West. We have received a request from the property owners in the two buildings that are bound by those two road segments regarding the permanently or long-term parked vehicles and the garbage associated with the vehicles that were there, kind of blocking the street, causing a disturbance. There have been apparently some disturbances of the people that were using those vehicles. And so they submit a request to staff for time limited parking to be evaluated for this location. So as you can see, this is, well, I should backtrack. As you can see, this is near the Bayfront area towards the far southwest part of Chula Vista. And these are the two structures that I was referring to, the two properties. The blue line indicates the frontages that this item is pertaining to. And so, as mentioned, it was the south side of Anita Street and the west side of Frontage Road West. The east side does not have any parking on Frontage Road West because of the bike lane that is currently there. This is some photos actually just taken from Street View indicating the existing conditions out there. As you can tell that these vehicles are generally abandoned or left for a long time. And so this is where the property owners have spent much effort in trying to clean up the area after the owners of these vehicles have abandoned them or left their garbage. And so that is what prompted their request. And this was validated by staff field observations as well. Another example photo of existing conditions. And so as a result of the evaluation, staff has determined that it would be appropriate to establish time limited parking on these frontages with 2 hours from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then no overnight parking from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that would be accepting Sundays and holidays. This is the same time-limited proposal for the Frontage Road West on the west curb line there, and it would be the exact same time-limited schedule. So staff recommends that the Safety Commission pass this resolution. The reason it needs to go to City Council is because per the municipal code, City Council reserves the right to approve anything related to parking affecting community businesses. And we interpreted that as this being relevant to that. So that's why it will be going as a recommendation to City Council. And staff proposes to actually have an amendment to the resolution as it is presented to you today. The amendment would be that to clarify in Schedule 6, there are two references to the length of time. We were not clear in indicating that that would be accepting the Sundays and holidays. So we would propose the amendment for the commission to move upon this resolution as amended, with the amendment being accepting Sundays and holidays. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Before we go into commissioner comments, I believe we now have to open this up for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments before the Safety Commission deliberates. So commissioners, as a reminder, refresh your screen to ensure new comments appears. I believe there's already 2 comments on this item, if you want to take time to read that.
I will start the clock.
Thanks. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners all had enough time to read the comments submitted? Okay, great. So if I could have Florence, if you could please announce for the record the number of comments received in favor and opposed to the item.
There were 2 comments received, 1 in support and 1 opposed.
Thank you. So do the commissioners have any questions or comments that you'd like to offer to staff or before we deliberate?
Quick question, where can I view the comments?
So I think there is a link. If you click on the chat button feature, there should be a link, and the chat button is on the bottom right corner, a little bubble.
Got it.
And so then when you click on that, it should take you to a page, and under item 5.1, there's another little bubble that says 2, and that's the 2 comments that were submitted.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Francisco. What was the time limit again for the parking? Was it 2 hours?
Yes, it would be 2 hours from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then no parking from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that would cover around the clock, and that would be accepting Sundays and holidays.
All right, thank you.
And did staff see the comments that were submitted? You know, the one that was in support, they also were saying that this is an issue that expands beyond these 2 streets, and they were wondering if similar efforts could be made on a couple of other streets that they recommended.
Yeah, the request was specific to this frontages that we are presenting, but we can evaluate further and see if it would be appropriate. One thing that we have to be mindful of is the bayfront development that's happening to the north. So this limited, time-limited parking, we determined wouldn't be an issue with respect to the parking supply in the area as it gets built out, but we can look into it further for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure I can understand their concern. And, you know, often you feel like you're resolving something in one street and you're really just pushing it over to another. And so people are creative.
That could be possible. That's true. Yes. Yeah, we'll look at it.
Okay. Commissioners, did anyone else have any comments or questions?
Well, the other comment talked about trying to begin allowing parking at 6 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. And I was wondering, what was the possibility of that?
Yeah, we are proposing that it would start at 6 a.m. I'm not sure where the 8 a.m. was referenced. I apologize if it was buried in there somewhere, but the resolution will be for 6 a.m.
Great.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay. If not, do we want to entertain a motion to approve to send this forward to City Council?
So moved.
Can I just ask that it be moved with as amended by staff?
Moved as amended by staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification, Paul. Do I have anyone who'd like to give a second?
I second, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can, Commissioner Cervantes.
I lost the webpage when I went to the comments. I cannot get back in, and it's asking for that password again. I put 2 different ones. They're not accepting it.
Oh, well, we can see you and hear you, so it may be that I'm not sure what happened to it on your screen, but we can see you and hear you.
Okay, good.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Orso Delgado, and I also have a second by Commissioner Cervantes. So Secretary Berdahl, could we please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Cervantes.
Here.
Could you please vote yay or nay?
Okay, hang on.
I didn't hear that.
Hang on. I need to find out where I can vote. I can't find anything.
Just verbally.
Yay.
Commissioner Faola,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Orso Delgado,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidinger is absent, Commissioner Munoz is absent, and Chair Marukian is absent.
Okay. So item 5.1 passes with those members present. So next, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something, Florence?
No.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is 6.1, the local road safety plan and annual road diet update. So staff, do you have a presentation on this item as well?
Yes, I do. Sure. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. So just want to do a brief progress update on our local road safety plan that we will be presenting to this commission at a later month. So just a brief reminder on what a local road safety plan is. It essentially is going to document our process for prioritizing traffic safety improvements. It's sort of like a playbook that we will follow. We sort of already do this process, but this is going to formalize it, and it'll also bring an opportunity to bring an input from the fire department, police department, emergency services, and so on. And this is a data-driven approach, so we're going to take all the collision data, and instead of just looking at nominal, like just the straight numbers of the ranking of what are the intersections that have the most collisions, this is going to be in a statistical analysis where we're going to account for road volumes and so on. So that way we are strategically focusing where we're going to do safety improvements based on where fatalities and serious injuries occur. And this is all guided by the 5 E's, which is sort of following from the state's safety plan, which are these here. We're obviously in the engineering and emerging technology segment, but as I mentioned, we bring in enforcement. Unfortunately, the police couldn't be here, of course, but as well as educating the public, and we're going to do a routine evaluation of the plan on a biannual basis is what we currently plan to do, and then a full update every 5 years. So the next steps is that we're currently working with Nancy right now on the geo-referencing the data. So we have all these collision data. It doesn't say specifically where it is. It may say it's 200 feet east of 4th and H, but we don't know where that is on a map specifically. So we have to take that information, put it on a map, so that way we can pick up all the other data. And so we've done that, and we're now doing the statistics side of things, which will tell us what kind of trends we're looking at, which intersections, what types of intersections or segments have the most fatalities and serious injuries. And that way we can be a little more proactive. That's really the intent of the local road safety plan. In the next couple of months, we're going to bring the working group together, since we'll have something to present them in the way of the statistics. And then we will look at planning our countermeasures. This is going to be sort of building the strategy for the safety improvements based on what we know and what we've learned from the data. And then we will present that to the working group, and then later to the Safety Commission. And after that, we'll go to City Council. And just to kind of shift gears now briefly, we, as in the recent past, have done an annual report on the road diet segments to sort of keep tabs on these pilot studies that this commission has approved as a result of, reducing lane counts. As you can imagine, there's a giant asterisk next to 2020 because with the shutdowns as a result of the COVID pandemic, we saw as little as 40% of traffic volume for that same time in 2019. And so currently we're looking at around 90% or more, depending on where you're looking. It's a little less in some places too, but right now we're almost normal. So we've actually started doing volume collection, data gathering to continue, doing our normal business of conducting warrant studies and so forth to determine, what sort of traffic control measures are appropriate. Whereas that was sort of put on hold during much of 2020 while traffic volumes were abnormally low, artificially low, as you all know. So 2020, we don't have much information to report, of course, but those road diets were obviously not challenged because the volume went down. And so we plan to report on all the segments that are in evaluation. We do this every other year, and so there's some staggering where some segments show up and some don't. But we're going to do all of them for this year, so that way everything's caught up, and we'll report that in January of next year, or the first meeting of this commission next year. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you. So I know there's no action by the commission on this one, but I do believe we have to also call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any comments on this before we have any discussion or questions.
Right, I think,
So,
okay, we'll bring that. Can you see it?
yes. So
Okay.
if you want to start the timer. Thank you. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed, and I did not see any comments submitted on this one or actually any of the other items on under number 6, but we'll check after each one. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions you want to discuss with staff on this? No? All right, easy night for you, Paul.
All right.
Okay. No, but thank you very much for the presentation. It's
Certainly.
good, and we'll look forward to seeing how things actually work when traffic is back fully up to normal and you have more measurable data, other than it's a little difficult right now, so we do understand.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, and Florence, I didn't see anything, so for the record, do we need to say that there are no comments for the record from the public, or are we okay moving on?
Yeah, there were no comments and no emails.
Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is item 6.2, and this is also just for discussion by staff. And this is engineering and traffic surveys and possible commission recommendation to City Council for Assembly Bill 2121. And this is an item that was continued from our meeting last year on November 4th of 2020. So staff, I believe do you have a presentation or discussion on this?
Yes, just some slides to facilitate the discussion. I'll bring them up
Okay.
right now. So yes, there've been some interesting developments since we last met in November, when Commissioners Heinger and Orso Delgado had discussed potentially putting together something to I guess, a recommendation to City Council. Basically, what happened is Assembly Bill 2121 didn't go anywhere. It ended up dying in committee. So, but actually in January, Assembly Bill 43 came, and it is rather significant. And I just want to briefly touch on a few highlights, all of which are subject to change. But Assembly Bill 43, in a nutshell, and I won't go into the specifics of all of these, and I'm happy to discuss them if you'd like, but in a nutshell, it expands the options in an engineering and traffic survey, the document that we put together when we propose speed limits. It expands the options for reducing speed limits in terms of what limits they can be, or what conditions they're applicable to, or what even would constitute a speed trap as a result. So with that, it also allows for the city council, being the local authority, to pass by resolution. And what that allows for is then there doesn't need to be two readings of an ordinance, because currently it's by ordinance. So essentially, like the second that the city council passes it and the signs are out there, the law can take effect, because right now we have to wait for two readings, two approvals by city council, and then a 30-day period before putting out the signs for those to be taking effect. So it also expands the options for what kinds of roads you can put lower limits on. So this is all with respect to the vehicle code as 2121 was, but it does a lot more. Again, everything is subject to change. This was sort of kind of covering what I was just saying. It does allow us, like, for example, just to give an example, when we can knock down a speed limit by 5 miles an hour as a result of having a higher accident rate, this would allow us to do that if it's in a high injury street, or if there are many peds or bikes present. It allows us to round down in any case. So it basically is working toward lowering speed limits in general. Again, all subject to change. And this is just a brief kind of overview of what the legislative process is in the state. And I'm sorry, the second assembly should actually say Senate, because it started in the assembly. And as you can see on the now, we're really early in the process. So there's lots of changes that could potentially come as far as where this bill goes. And right, like I mentioned, it's going in committee right now. There will be a hearing later this month. And letters of support are actually due next Monday. So that's not enough time for city council to make a motion or a recommendation on this. But I would like to assure you, though, that when I presented the speed limit items to city council earlier this year, some of the council members were already aware of this legislation that's being considered. So they are aware of it. I'm not sure what they intend to do with that information, but those items have actually been continued to a later date. So those speed limits, most of them, we are planning to move forward in the next couple of weeks. But then the Paseo del Rey one, we're actually looking a little further into. And that's basically it. So I know Commissioner Heidinger was pretty involved with this. And so I generally would be looking for direction from the commission to see what the next steps would be, if there would still like to be a recommendation that can be forwarded at a later date. I can look into that a little bit more, or do we want to just leave things as they are and then see where things go? So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. So I think we'll go for the 2-minute pause here again before we open it up for commissioner comments and deliberation.
Can you see it?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so the commenting period for this item is now closed. I also did not see any comments on our comment portal. So Florence, do you want to say for the record that we received no comments?
There were no comments on e-comments or by email.
Thank you. So commissioners, did you have any questions or yes, Commissioner Orso Delgado?
Paul, and maybe you mentioned it and I didn't hear you. Who's sponsoring the bill? A, hang on a second. B, do we know if there's any mounting opposition to it at this point in time? It might be too early. That's it for now, I think.
Sure. So it is Assemblymember Friedman. She's from the LA area. She was the one that actually brought forward the Assembly Bill 2121. She also incidentally is the chair of the Transportation Committee. So that's why, I mean, it's not exactly why, but that's probably why it was like a shoo-in for being heard at the committee, whereas last year the 2121 didn't go anywhere. I'm just speculating though. But as far as mounting opposition, I'm not aware. Most of the information that's out there as far as articles about it that I've seen have been generally in support. So I don't know if they've necessarily been hinting at it, but as you mentioned, it is very early and it might be too early for opposition to be coming up yet.
You know, from my point of view, I think we continue monitoring it. And once it goes to the floor for a live vote, I think that's when we would, as a city, we want to see if we can get the city council to make a recommendation in support of it then.
That sounds good. So in that sense, I guess I'll leave it to Vice Chair Fowler to lead the meeting as far as other further discussion, but I guess we can certainly do that on behalf of staff.
Okay, are there any other commissioner comments or questions? No. Well, it's really good to see that this is something that's moving forward and it has a lot of meat in the Assembly bill. So we'll see how much of it actually stays as it continues to move through the floor of the House and eventually through to the Senate. But I think, yeah, if you could keep us apprised of how it's moving forward. And then I guess one question, if it does move forward eventually and it goes on the floor for further discussion, vote, and comment, will there be a moment where either staff or even, Mayor Salas or someone would be able to provide support to it if the, council and the mayor's office chose to do so? Would they be able to call in and offer support, or how does that work?
I think so. As we researched this earlier, we discovered that there is no lobbyist or anything, but our council members are familiar with the representatives of the Chula Vista area at the state level, and they would probably converse with them. Again, I'm just guessing in that regard, but the deadline for going through the assembly is late May, so I can send an email with developments through Florence to keep the commission updated. However, we are also planning on having a meeting in May. So if there's a quorum, it can be brought up as a discussion item then, if that works for this group as well.
Yeah, I also think it would be great, just it's good seeing this because I just think about the Vision Zero efforts that the city of Chula Vista is doing, that, a lot of other jurisdictions are doing within the region. Something like this actually moving forward really helps in reducing speeds and also reducing fatalities. So I just think it's an important thing that we track, and hopefully we can see it continue to move forward and not be changed too substantially. I know you have no control over that, but
Understood. Yeah.
yeah.
So then I guess I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Paul, this is Bill Valley. So I would recommend that, we track it, keep an eye on it, and then we bring it back to the commission. And you know, depending on how it ends up, if you're in favor of it, you know, we could do an action that you recommend that the city, you know, supports it. Take that to council and actually have council do like a resolution of support as well, if you want to do that. Or we could just stick with a letter, but it might be better to actually take it to council that way.
Okay, and we could make that decision at the May meeting.
Yeah, depending on how, you know, the bills, yeah, depending on where it's at the point, you know.
Yeah.
Because if it keeps changing, I really kind of wait until it's like there and then do it. And then if it falls between a meeting, we can always either we can always do it with, you know, separately, because I think we would as a city support it anyway. So, but it would be nice for you guys to be able to, you know, say that you've supported it as well.
Okay, that would be great. Yes, Commissioner Orso.
I guess my only point to Bill is, and it's basically I think about the same issue. I think we need to, I guess, look at the timing of when it hits the floor for the first reading or the second reading, and when would it be necessary to go to the city council so that a letter or a proclamation from the city would be ready by that time. I think it becomes a timing issue, but I trust that you guys can figure that out.
I'll definitely be keeping my eye on this for sure. Yes. So if I understand the consensus of the group, then we will consider this item closed in effect, and we're going to bring a new item about Assembly Bill 43 in May, depending on where it is at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it back to us. Okay. So next item on the agenda is item 6.3, Police Department Traffic Accidents and Citations. So do we have a staff presentation?
I will briefly show you the data. Unfortunately, I don't have much context for it. Officer Wale was actually scheduled for a different operation this evening, so he wouldn't be able to attend. But just to kind of close out the data for 2020, as well as introduce new data for 21, it looks like 2021 is relatively lower in terms of collisions compared to the prior years, which is a good sign. The 2020 being the red line, there was a small uptick in December, but it looks like January is slightly above December as well. However, relative to the prior years, it was a good January and February. With respect to citations, 2020 looks like it had relatively low citations towards the end of the year, and then started out the year relatively low as well. This may be due to further lower volume, though in terms of volume data, as I mentioned, it was gradually increasing ever since June, late May, early June of 2020. We've seen increases in traffic volume. That was sort of the bottom, the low point. So that basically concludes this information. I'm happy to answer any questions after
Okay.
comments.
Thank you,
Yes.
Paul. I think we have to do our 2-minute timer to
Right.
allow the public to comment. Okay, thank you.
I would like to make a comment that Chair Marroquin has joined us via phone, so I have made him a panelist.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Chair. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. And Florence, can you please announce for the record the number of comments we received or did not receive?
There were no comments received and there were no emails received.
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any comments or questions for Paul on this item? No? Okay, thank you, Paul. So the next item on the agenda is item 6.4. This is the CIP update on pedestrian and bikeways safety programs.
I have just a brief discussion. I won't go through the details of all the projects. I just want to highlight that there were a few completions that were included in there, primarily traffic signal projects that you may have seen driving around, mostly on the west side. And I'd like to get some input from this group, if I could, with respect to how this is presented. Would it be more helpful to have it in a single table or sheet with basically the same level of detail, but kind of being in a one view versus having a few pages of slides, or does this work for you all? I'd like to get input on that. And then of course, I'm happy to answer any specific questions on any of these projects. That's all I'd like to say on this.
Does anybody want to make a comment on your preference to how you see the presentation?
I'm sorry. Should I do the comments timer?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. If we can have the 2-minute timer for the public to submit any final comments. Okay, so the commenting period for this item is also now closed. And Florence, could you please announce for the record the number of comments received?
There were no e-comments received or emails received.
Okay. So commissioners, do you have any comments, questions, or did you want to provide feedback that Paul requested on how he presents some of this information to us moving forward? Yes, go ahead.
I was gonna
Commissioner
say,
Cervantes.
as long as it's consistent with the packet that we received by email, I think it's gonna be fine. I mean, either way, the way you've done it looks pretty good to me.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a preference? No? I don't have a preference either, Paul. The PowerPoints and the slides are nice from viewing the photos, but in terms of if we're in person and you're printing out tons of sheets, I'm always in favor for less printing, but I'm fine with the current format you use.
Sounds good. I appreciate that. Also, I'd like to mention I had a request from Commissioner Orso Delgado at the last meeting for looking at the entire CIP program, if we have any kind of reports on that. I didn't forget, so I have some links that we will be sending via email after this meeting for information that you can access on that.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments, or Paul, was there any other feedback that I'm missing that you wanted to receive about this item?
Not really, not unless you had any questions on the specific project, or like I mentioned, if you wanted a different presentation format. I appreciate the feedback, though. We'll keep this going.
Yeah, no, I like this. I think it's good when there's something to really talk about that's new and interesting and different that you want to highlight it for us. Otherwise, it's good to have the information as part of the packet.
Definitely. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? No? Okay, so we will move on to the next item on our agenda, item 7. And so staff comments.
I'd just like to say thank you all for participating in this meeting tonight, and I appreciate Vice Chair Fowler chairing this meeting. Happy New Year, and great to see you all again. It's been a while. Also, hopefully in the next few meetings, we can all see each other in person again someday. So I'm looking forward to that. And as I mentioned, we are planning to have a meeting in May.
Great.
And so this is Bill, so I'm going to jump in again. But I just wanted to highlight that the Bikes on Broadway project is pretty. We're still got some minor work going on there, but the it's been paved and striped, and the lane reductions are in and all that. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to go and check it out. We had some little bit of issues first couple of weeks after the striping with getting the cars that aren't supposed to be parking in certain areas anymore off, but it looks like it's cleaned up quite a bit. PD gave a bit of a grace period to issue tickets and before they did towing and stuff, but looks like it's cleaned up. So hopefully you guys get a chance to get out, drive Broadway, take a look at what we've done. We got the bike lanes that go all the way from D Street now all the way down to Main. So it's a nice ride. It's long and it looks pretty. So just encourage you to get out there and take a look.
Yeah, Bill,
Thanks,
I
Bill.
was out.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Yes, Chair Marquin, go ahead. And then we'll have
Okay,
Commissioner Cervantes.
I've been trying to figure out this whole thing since the beginning of the meeting. I was able to hear you guys, but I was not able to communicate. The only thing I want to say is those bumper strippers that we put into some of the streets to release some of the street traps or the street areas. I went through some of those areas and those speed bumps are working terrifically. They look good and they are doing their job as they're supposed to do. So that's good. And I've seen a lot of new striping in the city, which is great, especially in the schools and especially where a lot of pedestrians cross. So thank you for the staff of our city. They're doing a great job. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to communicate with you through the whole meeting.
No, thank you for your comments, Chair. Commissioner Cervantes, you were going to make a comment?
Yeah, Bill, I just wanted you to know I did go drive Broadway twice last week. I think it looks really nice from C Street all the way down with the bike lanes. One business owner in particular didn't understand that he preferred to have 2 lanes. And I explained to him the safety factor regarding accidents and visibility, and he kind of understood it a little better. He had little information on what was going on, but it looks good to me.
So thank you for that. I know we did a lot of public outreach. We had several community forums. We contacted all the business owners. That was probably about 2 years ago, though, because it took a while to get this project out. And some of those could have changed over time as well. But I think it's it's one of those things where there's a significant change. It's just going to take some time to get used to it, and we'll see how it pans out. But I appreciate the comments. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think we can move on to item number 8 on our agenda, which is commissioner comments. Did any of the commissioners have any final comments that you wanted to make? Seeing none. Hearing none. Okay. Well, then I think if that is it, we'll conclude our meeting, and it is 6:56 p.m. So I'll adjourn this meeting to our next regular meeting of the Safety Commission on May 5th, 2021 via teleconference. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great evening.
Just for the record, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Okay.
Chair Marquardt.
On the voting on the first part, count me in. You can add my vote to the original of the first part of adding, send me back, I forgot complete on item 1.
Item 5.1,
Let's see.
where we were sending the resolution.
Yeah. And
Okay,
add my vote to that. And the parking on frontage, also, I'm okay on that also. Parking
Okay.
on frontage and Anita.
Okay, Florence, I'm not sure how we address that. You're able to do that?
I'll have to check with the city clerk, but I don't think that we can include that vote because we didn't actually add him to the meeting until I think it was 6:45.
Okay.
But I'll check with the city clerk's office.
Sad is I've been participating in view, but not in voice. But anyway, thank you. I just want to add that part of it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we'll adjourn the meeting here at 6:57 now p.m. and to our next meeting on May 5th. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Florence.
Thank you.
Thank you.